Hello. Okay, today the question has to be asked. How much longer will columnist David Brooks be allowed to remain at the New York Times? Now, so far, the conservative, quote unquote, because not really that conservative, but he's the House conservative at the New York Times, has been allowed to remain primarily because he's a NeverTrumper. In fact, every single quote unquote conservative at the New York Times, such as Ross Douthat, however you pronounce his name, and there's another guy, Stephenson, they've been allowed to portray themselves as conservative, but the one thing they all have in common is never Trump, no support for Trump. And still, as last we know, Brooks is still a never-Trumper, but he possibly went a bridge too far in his January 21st column. That was on Monday. And the reason for this is he came out in full defense of the MAGA hat-wearing Covington Catholic high school students. And we're going to see exactly what happened. That probably is way too intolerable for his fellow colleagues and his boss, Pooch Sulzberger, at the New York Times to tolerate. So we're going to see what happens. But I'm going to show you first, I'm going to show you what he said that has sent the left into an absolute rage because they're really angry at him now. And then specifically, we're going to go to Dummy Land and see the dummy response, which is, as you can expect, completely over the top in anger. So first of all, here's the thing, though. What a lot of mainstream media outlets have done after the longer video came out is they said, oh, now that we've seen the longer video, perhaps our initial impressions weren't quite what they seemed, but, and there's a big but, and they still don't really come out in support of the students. You know, it says, oh, there's nuance involved. There's a lot more nuance. That's a favorite word of the left recently, nuance. But let's look at the David Brooks column, which amazingly it's virtually nuance-free, thank God. He does come out. I'll give him credit. But unfortunately, David, your days at the Times could very well be numbered. So let's see exactly what enraged them. So here we go. For those of you vacationing on Mars this past weekend, a video went viral showing a group of boys, many of them in MAGA hats, surrounding an older Native American man who was banging a drum. The man, Nathan Phillips, told two different versions of what happened. He told the Washington Post he was singing a traditional song when the teenagers swarmed around him, some chanting, "Build that wall, build that wall." Wait a second, hold it. Let's stop here a second. David, there is absolutely no evidence whatsoever that they chanted, "Build that wall." And you know, it's okay to say that, but guess what? That's what the leftists are claiming that were there or claim that they heard. Guess what? No video has been shown that has any of those kids chanting, "Build that wall." Okay, just had to digress there. It was real important. And so let me get back to the point again. He says, he decided the right thing to do was to get away. I've got to find myself an exit and get out of this situation. Oh, help me, children are chanting and they're wearing MAGA hats and my life is threatened. Okay, so now here's the other version. He told the Detroit Free Press that the incident started when the boys started attacking 4 African Americans. Yeah, BS alert there, if you know what I mean. Yeah, these kids in high school are going to attack these big African American guys, the black Hebrew Israelites that were, by the way, cursing like hell at them, calling them homophobic names and all sorts of stuff. Okay, he told the Detroit Free Press that the incident started when the boys started attacking 4 African Americans. So he decided to intervene. There was that moment when I realized I've put myself between beast and prey. Oh, what a hero. Oh, my God, this Marine veteran of Vietnam, which proved not to be true. He's so wonderful. These young men were beastly, and these old black individuals was their prey. Oh, come on. I mean, seriously, have you seen a longer video? I mean, really? Oh, Oh, but that's not David claiming this. Thank God. It's Nathan Phillips, who, by the way, I should tell you, there's a Catholic News Service article about this guy. On January 19th, he went and he tried to bang his way into a Catholic shrine, a mass there. So, but let's get back. So he's no some wonderful little man, as we've been finding out. Some channel says, okay, in this one episode, you had a gentle 64-year-old Native American man being swarmed by white, boo, male, boo, preppy, devil, boo, Trump supporters, infinite boo. If you are trying to rub the pleasure centers, this sounds like I give David credit for. Some of his writing is kind of bloated, but this one I kind of like. If you are trying to rub the pleasure centers of a liberal audience, this is truly a story too good to check. Okay, so, oh yeah, Saturday was a day of liberal vindication. See, this is what those people do. This is who they really are. Reza Aslan, the religious scholar, tweeted a photo of the Maine Covington boy and asked, have you ever seen a more punchable face than this kid's? The filmmaker, Michael Green, showed the same image and tweeted, a face like that never changes. This image will define his life. No one need ever forgive him. Actually, Michael Green, your tweet is going to define your life, and most normal people will never forgive you. You too, Reza. Okay, so so on Sunday, several longer videos emerged showing that most of what Phillips had told the media was inaccurate. In other words, bullshit. The incident actually started when members of the hate cult, the Black Hebrew Israelites, started hurling racist and homophobic slurs at the boys. Absolutely correct. The Covington boys eventually asked their chaperone if they could do their school cheers. And the reason for that is because these Black Hebrew Israelites were like just foul-mouthed, yelling insults at them and everything, and so they said, okay, let's do our school cheers and drown that out. That's actually a wise thing to do. Okay, the Covington boys eventually asked their chaperone if they could do their school cheers. As they were doing that, Phillips walked into the middle of the circle and banged his drum in the face of one of the boys. Everybody was suddenly confused. Students shouted, "What is going on?" Then there was confusion and discomfort, smirking, and verbal jousting. Well, you know what? You can call it smirking, or you could just be calling it smiling. Actually, if you watch the video, bottom line, it's pretty easy to figure out. The Black Hebrew Israelites were screaming foul language at the kids. They were trying to drown it out by cheering. And when the Native Americans or Indians came and started banging their drums and chanting and stuff, the kids were actually relieved, like, oh, it's the tension is taken away from those guys are yelling foul things at. But the confusion came is when Phillips got right into the face of that one kid and started banging his drum right in his face. So that's it. That's exactly what happened, and you could see it if you watch the longer video. Okay, now here's where David Brooks, I mean, if he hadn't doomed his career at the New York Times, it's probably where it happens, right here. Everybody involved in the incident was operating in an emotional and moral context has been set by the viciousness of the Black Hebrew Israelites. Of the major players, this is it. This is the career killer for David Brooks of the New York Times. Of the major players, the boys' behavior is probably the least egregious. Uh-oh. So as you can see, this is probably why, at the very least, I mean, maybe he won't get fired, but I'm going to tell you, at the very least, goodbye, David. Goodbye to your invitations to all those posh, plush Manhattan penthouse parties. You are no longer their favorite little conservative. You've just ruined it for them. They're now as far as they're concerned, you defended the kids wearing the MAGA hats. And also let's add in the Georgetown parties. That's goodbye for that. But we're going to see what happens. Now, as you can expect, the dummies were absolutely enraged. Not just the dummies, but basically the whole left is now extremely enraged at David Brooks. So we're going to go to dummy land here and here. And I actually did, you know what, it's by Mark P. Kessinger. And the funny thing is his response, it says here, my response to David Brooks and all the other Covington defenders. I actually did see his response on the New York Times website. So this is what he said. He says, my response to David Brooks and all the other I posted this initially as a response to David Brooks's column in the New York Times today, a column melodramatically titled How We Destroy Lives Today by Mark Kessinger. Yeah, I read this. So here it is. Having watched both the original video and the video that supporters of the kids claim is a vindication of them, I see nothing in the latter that in any way justifies their behavior. Really? You mean you didn't see Nathan Phillips approach the students? Because originally the story was that they surrounded him. They surrounded him. No, the students were up there doing their cheers, and Nathan Phillips and his fellow leftists, they approached the students. Yeah, so there if you see the video, you could clearly see that. The claim is that the boys had been provoked by another group. Perhaps they were. No, actually they were, not perhaps. Perhaps they were, but provoked to do what exactly? Well, provoked to do their school cheers, so they wouldn't have to listen to the foul language from the black Hebrew Israelites that had been labeled a hate cult, by the way. Even the Southern Poverty Law Center, before they got, even they, it was back when they were a little more honest, they labeled the black Hebrew Israelites a hate cult. So anyway, let's get back. They claimed the young Mr. Sandman was standing his ground. Really? Against what challenge? No, he wasn't standing. I mean, standing his ground. He was just, you know what, you can call it standing his ground. He was standing there, minding his own business. I mean, what the hell? The standing his ground. Yes, Indian, you may not pass. I will not permit it. No, he was just standing there. The guy got into his face. Oh, jeez. Unbelievable. Okay, really? Against what challenge? What I see in the video are two groups. One of the high school students who are milling about, and the other, the Native American men and his group, who seem to be moving through the park in the course of their protests. Yeah, they seem to be moving. They seem to be moving right into the middle of the high school kids. They seem to be, except that they actually were, not seem to be. Okay. What I see in the video are the two, one of the high schools who are milling about, the other of the Native American man and his group who seem to be moving through the park in the course of their protests. And this is what brings the two into close proximity. Normally in a free-flowing, oh, this is unbelievable. Normally in a free-flowing public setting such as this, there is an automatic give and take of space as people try to move through such a crowd. But for this young man, any such give is apparently too much to ask. What do you mean give? The guy's standing there. He's minding his own business. The Nathan Phillips got into his face and was banging his drums. Well, let's say he moved to one side. Do you think that Nathan Phillips would go, oh, thank you, kid. You allowed me to keep on going. I wasn't able to move, but now that you moved to a side, I have the freedom to go forward. Of course not. His whole purpose was to get into the kid's face. Get it? I mean, you watch the video; it's so obvious. Oh, geez, what fantasies the left had. Okay, normally in a free-flowing public setting such as this, there is an automatic give and take of space, such as people try to move through such a crowd. But for this young man, any such give is apparently too much to ask. And so this young man chose to maintain nearly chest-to-chest contact. His face, a foot from the man's face, staring directly at him and smirking. Yeah, I mean, come on. I mean, who? What do you mean staring directly at him? He was looking for it. He didn't know what to do. I mean, first of all, the guy, Nathan Phillips, gets right into his face. I mean, it's obvious. Yeah. Okay, so So we got this myth going on here that the student, he stopped poor Nathan Phillips from moving forward. He got into his face. And it's just the other way around. The student has said he was smiling. Oh, and smirking. This whole thing with smirking. Yeah, you know what? Your smirk is more like a smile. It's smiling. The kid was trying to politely defuse the situation. You know, there's probably a parallel universe where the kid, maybe he didn't know what to do, so he just maintained like that. He wasn't even smiling, and you'd be screaming at him. He was scowling. Did you see that? He was scowling. But instead, the kid tried to defuse it by smiling. So he smirked. He smirked. My God, the kid smirked. Crime out. Is there a law against smirking even? Let's say you did smirk. I saw a smile, but is that illegal? Okay. Or even immoral or anything. Okay. The student has said he was smiling. Yes, he was smiling. Smiling. Got it? To demonstrate that he and his friends were friendly and accepting. Sorry, but the totality of his smirk, his stare, and his chest-to-chest stance constitutes a body language meaning of which is well known to any male over about the age of 8. It was clearly an attempt to intimidate, and those kids deserved to be called out on it. So in his fantasy, the Covington High School student, who was very polite, was purposely blocking that poor Native American man, Nathan Phillips, and kept him from moving forward. He got into his face and stood his ground. Except when you watch the video, you see exactly what happens. Look who went out of his way to walk right in front of the student and bang his drum loudly. Okay. The kid's got more, controlled his temper way better than I could. Okay. Then he says here, I think there are a lot of well-meaning people who have been hoodwinked by a clever right-wing spin machine. No, their clever right-wing spin machine is called more information. More information in terms of more video came out, which showed exactly what happened, and more documentary evidence, including the fact that Phillips is, we saw where he's coming from when he tried to disrupt. Yeah, he's trying to disrupt a Catholic mass. So where's the wonderful person there? So let's look at, now he wasn't the only loony one here. He says, okay, yeah, here, this dummy, D Hill 926. This whole thing has really been getting to me. I've been exposed to kids like this. Listen to this. This is unbelievable. They're effing a-holes. Their helicopter parents are effing a-holes. All they are doing is teaching the kids how to respond to public scorn for their a-hole actions. Unfortunately, sometimes PR works. F every goddamn one of them. You better believe me, when they're home, out of the public eye, they are indeed smirking. Yeah. See how deranged they are? They're all, the left is deranged. And believe me, even these people at the mainstream media that are, pretending like, oh, there has to be nuance, maybe the situation, that's their public face. But believe me, they have a very similar attitude to that last dummy we just quoted, and which explains why, Brooks's days might be numbered at the New York Times. Oh yeah, here, Sharon Ann, here we get the feminists. They were there for the sole purpose of promoting male control of female bodies. They were there for the sole purpose of promoting male control of female bodies. Okay, teenagers bust in to demand adult women be subjected to forced childbearing. They weren't on a field trip to the Smithsonian. They were there to harass people they don't agree with. So there we got this feminist weighing in. So it goes on and on like this. Oh yeah, here. The original poster, Mark P. Kessinger. I'm talking about liberals and progressives who have fallen for this, including even a friend of mine who is an ardent feminist. Well, maybe she actually looked at what the extended video showed and read some more information about it, and maybe has an open mind. Okay, so now here, yeah, see now here, definitely, I think David Brooks is on his way out at the Times. I could be wrong, but at the very least, he's facing being ostracized completely. But of course, there's Bullwinkle 428. But of course, David Brooks is defending these little prep school assholes. So, and by the way, this is all over the place. You can go to leftist forums. Even there's even more threads in the dummy land about this. But the bottom line is, don't be too surprised. Near future, I mean, they might say, "Oh, David decided to leave to spend more time with his family and all that." No, he was canned. That's what's going to happen, because I just don't see how they can tolerate him. So, David, sorry, you were a native. You were a NeverTrumper in good standing. You might still dislike Trump, but it's the people of the left that are going to kill your career right now. So, David Brooks and everybody else, so long for now.